Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine with another new video, and this one is a band overview looking at Bachman Turner Overdrive. And this video is dedicated to Robby Bachman, who sadly died recently, and I said at the time that I was going to put something together for Bachman Turner Overdrive, and I thought a good thing to do would be to talk about my own experience of this band and why I like them so much. So where shall I start? I think I'll start at the beginning. So I'm not going to go back to the beginning of Bachman Turner Overdrive because that was actually before my time. But I'm at school and it's 1974 and a single is released called You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. And it was a great song, and of course it stuck out because of the kind of stutter in the vocal delivery. And it's become a classic rock staple song on every compilation ever released ever since. But it stuck out because it was a great song, and I even bought the sheet music for this. I was just starting to learn to play the guitar, and I bought the sheet music to try and learn the lead lines and the chords. And at school at that time, we only bought records at Christmas or birthdays because they were too much money. You know, by the time you saved up your pocket money, you know, there'd be something else that was vying for your attention, really. So there's only much. But this album, one of my friends, Paul, who's no longer with us either, I remember I used to go around to his house after school, and his older brother, Mark, used to always be buying. He had a job, so he used to buy records. And one time he went round, and he had this. Look at that. Not Fragile by Bachman Turner Overdrive. I think this is not the one. I think these cogs were embossed at one point in the first editions, but this isn't that. But this is the first edition. This is actually a copy that one of my friends had, and he put sellotape around the edges of the cover to protect it. How naive. Could have been worse. Could have been PVC, I suppose. And it had a great gatefold sleeve, and that picture. Can you see that? Such a dramatic live picture, and they were like, the two guys were really big guys, weren't they? It's Turner on bass, CF Turner on bass, and Randy Bachman lead guitar, and they wore like check shirts, like Canadian lumberjack man and everything. Apart from Blair Thornton, who was wearing all these satin suits. He's got a red one on the inside, on the outside I think it's like a blue one. Great live shots. And I'd only just discovered Montrose because again. My friend's older brother had bought it, but I thought this was similar in a way. It was like, it's because we were so used to British rock music, the obvious ones, Sabbath, Purple, Zeppelin. But this is coming from overseas, first Montrose in America, and now this a year later from Canada. And it's such a fantastic album. I didn't know that it was called Not Fragile because they were kind of moving against, well, not moving against, but it was based on an answer to Yes's album Fragile, which had sold so well because it was so not fragile. But Not Fragile, it starts with that bass riff and it comes in really slowly, and then the riff comes in. It's absolutely fantastic. In fact, if you go to YouTube and look for an Old Grey Whistle Test performance of where they're on the show, but they're not actually in the show. The presenter says, "Here's Bachman Turner Overdrive on their latest US tour, and they're doing Not Fragile," and it's such a full-on metal attack version of that track. It's absolutely intense. I mean, it's a fantastic track, but the live version, it's just absolutely, it's fantastic. It's one of it makes you think. As I was watching it before just a few days ago again, and remember, it's just what a fantastic tight rock band they were. I used to kind of look back and think, oh, Bachman Turner Overdrive, kind of a meat and potatoes type band, really. Kind of blue collar, Bad Company type. Stop start rock. Soft tracks, hard tracks. But you watch them do that, and they were really metal for the time. On that track, it's pure metal, great guitar playing, and the voice. What a rock and roll voice! What a rock and roll voice! Absolutely brilliant. Second track, Rock Is My Life, and This Is My Song. That was like an anthem, wasn't it? Moving into a new town and rock. and One Day You'll Forget Me and all the rest of it. It's just about being in a rock band, but it's such a fantastic song, great light and shade in it. Of course, Roll On Down the Highway, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, Freewheeling, Sledgehammer. You Hit Me Like a Sledgehammer. I mean, what a track. You know, what a track. I mean, it's all, there's a lot of humour in it as well, but it's such a heavy song. And my favourite off this album is Second Hand. The way it built up, it's just my dad used to say it was a cacophony of noise, but I just thought it was fantastic. It was a great pressing. It was on Mercury label, and I think it's fantastic. I did buy it on CD, and it was twinned with Four Wheel Drive because they recorded the tracks for both of these albums roughly at the same time, which is why the albums are quite similar. So this was the album, one of the albums to have at school in 1974. There was a documentary when I think Thin Lizzy was supporting that was shown on the TV, and it was because they were massive. And there's another documentary on YouTube which shows them talking about, I think Robby Bachman saying, I've got so many gold discs, it's embarrassing. Some of them I keep in the wardrobe, I don't want to put them all on display. They were massive. But in the UK, something kind of went wrong. Because when a band is this big, the next album is going to knock everything out of the ballpark, isn't it? But it didn't. And I'll mention another band at this point, Extreme, with they were a massive band, and they sold out the NEC in Birmingham. And when they brought out their following album, it didn't sell. So what went wrong for when Four Wheel Drive came out, which I didn't buy at the time? And I think it's because this single, Hey You, and was the B-side, Flat Broke Love. The A-side, Hey You, was very similar to You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. Very, very similar. And the B-side, Flat Broke Love, started the same way as Not Fragile, with like this bass riff, and then came into these power chords. So I remember thinking at the time, it sounds like they're repeating themselves. And for whatever reason, and that was just me, but none of my friends who had all bought that one, Not Fragile, they didn't buy this. And I bought this later on. This is a American pressing, and again, it's a gatefold sleeve with lots of glorious live photographs of the band, and I think there were some on the inside. When I did the post about Robby, I used that picture. And there's some great tracks on here, you know, Four Wheel Drive itself. It's a classic album. And that's where I left them. But as the years rolled by, I started to dig out other stuff. And this was Bachman Turner Overdrive. Which one is this? I think this is 1973 one, isn't it? This is the one with Blue Collar on and Stayed Awake All Night. Again, gatefold sleeve on Mercury Records. And great album, but not as good as Not Fragile. And then I left them completely behind. I think I bought the live one literally just a few months ago because I found it cheaply. And this should have been a double. And it was never really released in the UK. Very hard to find. What I would recommend is this. There is a review of this on the Now Spinning magazine website. The review is written by Joe Geesing. And this is a great little box set. It comes with an extensive booklet. Who was this by? It was Caroline Records, wasn't it? Yeah, Caroline Records. Comes with a great little booklet going through all the pictures from all the gatefold sleeves are in the booklet. All of them. It's a great essay that goes through the whole of their career, lots of memorabilia and stuff. And I think this is Malcolm Dome, wasn't it? I think who wrote this, if I remember right. Yeah, Malcolm Dome in 2015. So that's when this came out. And it's got, they were all synced, there's no gatefold sleeves, but there's basically 8 albums in here. And there's no extra tracks, but they're all the albums as they are. So you've got Bachman Turner Overdrive, Bachman Turner Overdrive 2, Not Fragile, Four Wheel Drive, Head On, Freeway, Street Action, and Rock and Roll Nights. So obviously the last 2 albums, they were called BTO because they'd started to fall out by then. The remastering is really good, and it's a great way of getting, you know, these 8 albums by this fantastic band. The only other story I've got really about the band is that I picked up Freeways a few years ago from a second-hand record shop in St Austell in Cornwall, and this has got a track on called Shotgun Rider, which is again a track that gets played a lot on classic rock radio. And this album was from 1977, and I've never played it, and it's never been opened. And the reason, but I'm not going to get rid of it. It's a bit like this thing, why I like things on both formats sometimes, because if I want to play it, I can play it on the CD, which is from that box set. Because it's never been opened, because it's sealed, and in there is the Air from 1977. And that's where it's staying. And it's like a time capsule from that period when I was 18. It was an album that was not seen as being that good at the time, but again, I play it on here. But I do really like the band, and I think that as the years have gone by, before Robby passed away, I'd been playing 4-wheel drive and wondering why I hadn't bought that at the time. Why I just suddenly decided, you know, maybe because it was 1975, I was leaving school, I'd got Straight Shooter to buy, first Rainbow album, Sabotage by Black Sabbath, Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin, UFO, Fawcett. I could just go on and on and on, and maybe I just thought I can't stretch to that. And I've played 2 tracks from the single, and they sound like outtakes from Not Fragile, so there it stayed. I've also bought more recent stuff by Bachman Turner, and they still sound fantastic. Absolutely brilliant band. And so if I'm going to recommend anything, it is that you will play, because it's the law, that you'll play Not Fragile. Go and find that. Stream that. This is one of those albums, if you're into rock music, because you're into rock music and you already knew that, then you probably already got this. But if you're getting into rock music and you want to find out more about the foundations, what was all those seeds that were sown all those years ago, how it became what it was, then this album is an important cornerstone of rock. And every home should have one, and everyone should hear it. You ain't seen nothing yet. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here, thank you for supporting me, thank you for all your kind messages. I really appreciate it, and take care everybody, and keep spinning those records, and I shall see you on my next video.